Yo, what's up, everyone? I'm back from a not so long holiday. Just wanted to say thank you for all the positive and negative comments on my last video. I really hope y'all enjoyed that. But I'm back with, crazy ideas. Like, these are just absolutely insane, in my opinion, of course. And before I start, don't forget to click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to stay notified of all my latest uploads, and lastly, hit that like button. Just do it. It's not hard, please. So, let's not waste any more time and get into this what if. This is gonna be what if Naruto went back in time. So, start off. So, after the war, the fourth Great Shinobi World War, the five Kage actually talk Sasuke into putting a genjutsu on the nine-tailed beasts. And this was all in order to kill Naruto. And the reason that they wanted to do that was because he's just too strong, too dangerous, too uncontrollable. They couldn't predict when he would just betray them, and he could potentially just destroy the whole world like that. He was even more of a threat than Kaguya in some ways. And so Sasuke agrees to this deal. And him and Naruto as canon, they go to the final valley for their battle, and it pretty much goes as canon. And towards the end of the fight, where they're like almost running out of chakra, the Tsuchikage and the Raikage, they both appear. And basically, the Raikage just appears behind Naruto, who was too tired to react, and just ran his hand through his chest. Just stabbed him with his lightning thing. And then he let him go, and the Tsuchikage just trapped Naruto in his particle cube, something like that, so that he couldn't escape, and started shrinking it. That's when Sasuke activates his Rinnegan and Mangekyo Sharingan again, and enters Naruto's mindscape. And he basically puts all the tailed beasts under a genjutsu one by one, starting from the one tails. And now Kurama seeing this, understands that, his time is coming. And so he tells Naruto, here is a jutsu that will save you and all of us. Please use it right now. Then he touches Naruto's forehead, and after that, his eyes turn into a Rinnegan pattern, and he gets extracted after Naruto, basically. After that, Naruto himself goes out of his own mindscape, and he performs some hand signs that Kurama actually told him to do. When he touched his forehead, he transmitted some memories. And so he did these hand signs. After that, on top of the particle cube that Naruto was in, a black orb, sort of a black hole, a mini black hole, it started to appear. And this little black hole, it started basically absorbing everything around it, sucking everything around it. And everybody is terrified, all the other Kage that are watching from the side, they're terrified. Tsuchikage and Raikage are, pissing themselves basically. But Sasuke, he's just looking at Naruto in this, he's like a little girl, scared, so scared. And, Naruto looks at Sasuke, looks at the Kage who are just watching in fear and terror, absolute madness. He just looks at them and smiles in this maniacal way, and then says, "Oh shit, my lamp just fell. We're continuing the what if. I just ruined the moment. Oh damn." And basically Naruto smiles maniacally, looking at everyone, and then in a very grim and sadistic tone says, "I'll see you all in hell." And after that, the black hole rapidly spreads and absorbs everything around it, destroying the shinobi world. And after that, for Naruto, everything goes black. We see Naruto just floating in this endless void. And Naruto is conscious, of course. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just wondering how the hell he's still alive. But then he remembers something that Kurama said before they parted ways. He remembers that Kurama said that this technique will save him and the tailed beasts. And when he realizes that, a white door appears. It appears next to, like, a few meters away from him. And so Naruto starts, like, floating towards the door, wanting to get out, see what's outside, basically. He finally reaches the door and goes through it. Naruto quickly wakes up, and upon reflexes, just pure instinct, he catches a blade that, if he didn't catch it, would pretty much kill him. And so Naruto then looks up and sees 5 pairs of Sharingan. He doesn't know what's happening, but feels this incredible anger, building up inside of him when he sees that Sharingan, because it reminds him of the betrayal he went through, of the person who he actually thought was his best friend. I mean, Naruto did know all along that something wasn't right with Sasuke, and that he was, like, sick in the head or something, but, like, he still hoped for the best. It's still Naruto. But, when he feels this anger, the hand that, he caught the blade with, the veins on that hand sort of turn black, like pitch black, like the blood in the veins turned black. And basically, after that, a sort of a black, like a dark chakra comes out in the form of, like, goo, like tentacles, and it basically just absorbs, it basically just spreads on all of the Uchiha, who I guessed you guys were, I think you guys guessed these were Uchihas, and the black chakra spread on the Uchihas, and 3 seconds pass, the Uchiha are all covered in the chakra, but then 3 seconds later, the chakra just disappears, just fades away, and Naruto sees all of the Uchiha on the ground, lifeless. Their skin is pale. The only thing that you can see is their face expression, and it's just terror. It's just fear. And so Naruto is still in confusion, but he's just, because of this confusion, he just thinks very fast, and so he takes 1 3-Tomoe Sharingan out of one of the Uchiha's eye socket, just randomly, whoever, because they all had us. I'll just say they all had 3-Tomoe, and so he just takes the 3-Tomoe Sharingan and just runs away as fast as possible, somewhere where even he doesn't know where to. But 1 hour later, Hashirama, a young boy from the Senju clan, in green armor, he comes to the scene with another 3 Senju men, and he sees 5 dead Uchihas, with one of them with a missing eye. And so he asks, what happened here? Wasn't Itama supposed to be here? Where is he? Where is his squad? And then the man next, and then a few meters away, he hears a voice saying, Lord Hashirama, I found Lord Itama's squad. They were all dead, but I can't find Itama anywhere. And then we go to another scene. We go back to Naruto, who just arrived to, in front of a big cave, and outside of the cave, there was a little pond, some trees surrounding it, some very weird trees that he's never seen before, along with some bushes, some tall grass, and a generally nice view. It was also next to a lake, so Naruto thinks that, this is pretty much a perfect spot to live in during, what he's going through. He doesn't know where he is, what is happening. And so all of a sudden he remembers that before Kurama got extracted from his body, he basically gave him the memories of all of his previous Jinchuriki, including the Fuinjutsu knowledge that Mito and Kushina had together. And so Naruto now basically knows Fuinjutsu perfectly, except for the fact that he has pretty bad handwriting, which he needs to improve, of course. But training can solve that, of course. And so immediately Naruto does a few hand signs, bites his thumb, and writes a few, weird symbols on the ground, actually in the air, and then they light up and create an invisible barrier that's unbreakable. Even you can't break it even with a Biju bomb. That's how strong it is. And basically, he sets up this barrier around this new area that he found, and he basically just barely manages to get into the cave and just falls to the ground, passing out from the exhaustion, basically. And so he wakes up in his mindscape, sees that it's completely empty. Nobody there. No Kurama, no other tailed beasts, no Sage's Six Paths, nothing, nobody. And this incredible sense of loneliness, it starts creeping up on him. He doesn't know what to do, but he remembers what Kurama said, and decided to be strong for both of their sakes. Make something out of this new chance that Kurama gave him. And he starts thinking about things, and he understands something. He basically, since I'm just gonna say out loud what he's thinking right now. He thinks first that if the Uchiha are here, this basically means that I'm back in time, that I traveled back in time somehow. Gonna have to think about that later. After that, he looked down and saw that he's wearing Senju armor, meaning that his body is from the Senju clan. And then suddenly, when he just thought about the word Senju, memories just start flashing in his mind, and he just starts holding his head in pain. And after a few seconds, it calms down, and Naruto raises his head, and basically now he knows the whole story of where he is, who he is, basically. His real name, according to this world, is Itama Senju, the twin brother of Tobirama this time, and Kawarama. They're triplets, and Hashirama is the oldest now. Changing canon a bit, I'm sorry. And he now knows that he was basically attacked by an elite squad of Uchiha warriors who killed him and his squad. But before the Uchiha could kill his body, Itama's consciousness faded away while his took over, and that's how he got here. And he understands that he's the brother of the first and second Hokage, which is a bit shocking to him. But he doesn't really feel any more love towards the Leaf Village, since he literally saw Tsunade watch him be trapped in that particle barrier thing that the Tsuchikage made. So he doesn't feel any love towards the Leaf Village. And so he understands that in order to prevent all of these horrible things from happening in the future, that he's gonna need to do something to prevent it all. And so, after that, he, has a little brain fart moment. He thinks about, how the hell am I this smart? How did I figure this all out? And after that, he has a realization that all of the mental seals that he probably had on him, that were put on by the Leaf Village to make him dumber and more loyal to the Leaf so that he won't betray him. Basically, when he got transported from one world to another, these seals, they fell off. And, this kind of fuels his hatred a bit, his rage, his anger. And so after that, Naruto decides to get out of the mindscape because enough time has passed. He needs to start getting things in order. And so he wakes up the next morning and immediately decides to start training. And so he sits down to meditate and bro, what the hell? Why does everything? Why do all my devices, all my lamps keep like stopping to work? Cause my speaker just broke. Apparently, it like turned off. But whatever, I don't care. I totally don't care. But continuing on with the what if, he decides to sit down to meditate, and he basically just starts running his chakra through his like pathways to see where he needs development, where exactly, if he even needs any development in his control. And he understands that he now has an insane amount of chakra, much more than Itama had when he was still alive. But basically he now has an insane amount of chakra. But he realizes that, you know, his chakra control, it's good, by all means it's good, but it's not the best. And before I continue, I forgot to mention that when Naruto got all the memories of Itama, you know, Naruto didn't completely take over Naruto. There is no more Itama as like a being, as a consciousness, but some of the traits and personality of Itama, it got passed down to Naruto. So Naruto is now a lot calmer and has a bit of a different view on life. Not too drastic, but you know, he still feels the love for like Hashirama and Tobirama, his brothers. So basically, he treats them as brothers, not like as Hokage. Sort of, if you get what I mean. I'll explain it on later in the story when it's gonna be more fitting. But Naruto stands up from his meditation, which lasted like 2 hours. He's good, and he starts doing a bit of chakra control exercises to see where exactly he's at. And so he does the tree and water walking with first try. And after that, I don't know if it's an exercise that was in the canon or I just made it up myself, but I just thought of it. He basically sits down. He basically collects a few leaves, like from a tree, a random tree. Sits down in like the lotus pose, and he tries to stick the leaves onto his body with chakra, and then move the leaves around with the chakra. I don't know if you understand it, but it's a very hard exercise for him. And he does that for quite a while. And after the exercises, he wonders what was that strange power that he basically used against those 5 Uchiha. And you know, he tries to summon it, like it doesn't work. He's like sort of like Peter Parker right now, trying to summon the webs. Naruto's like raises his hand forward and says like, black goo come out or something like. He also says pizza time because he's that type of person. It doesn't work. He's like ramen noodles or something. It doesn't work. He doesn't know what to do, so he just gives up for the day because there's no point in trying right now. He needs to think about it more. And so he's tired. He goes back into his cave, which I forgot to mention. He already like made a few tables out of wood, a few chairs, like a fireplace or something. He made it like look like home. And you know, he sees the eye that he stole in like a little cloth. Don't ask me about the hygiene part. It just works. Like, okay, let's just say that he has a jar. He found a jar somewhere somehow. He just has a jar. Let's say that the cave was an abandoned bandit hideout. Then there was nobody in there. Yep. And so he sees the eye that he stole and just decides that, you know, why waste time? He should just perform like a self-operation and just transplant the eye to himself. And so he does that, and you know, he just like nonchalantly just takes his eye out, boom, throws it somewhere away, and then just puts the new eye into his own eye socket. And you know, this was extremely painful. And so as soon as Naruto closed the new eye, he just passed out from the shop for the pain shock, because you know, he's still in a young body. I'll explain that. So he's not that pain tolerant. So he just passes out and appears in the mindscape. And you know, Naruto's fully expecting a Rinnegan or something. He's explaining. He's expecting like a Renegon or like a Rene Sharingan to pop up, but no. He just sees a 3-Tomoe Sharingan, a regular one. And after that, he runs a bit of chakra into it and sees a Mangekyo Sharingan design appear on the screen. I'll show it. It'll be there, probably, I hope. But you know, he tries to deactivate it to turn into like a normal eye, but he can't, and he realizes that it's like sort of like Kakashi, but he just somehow randomly unlocked the Mangekyo. But he doesn't care. It's even better for him. So he thinks about the mindscape, and you know, he goes to look around because, you know, he realized that throughout his life, previous life, he didn't really explore any of the other like rooms and corridors that were in the mindscape. And so he just decides to go explore them. And, you know, he sees that there are many rooms and many corridors, and he looks around, and he basically just sees that all of these different rooms, they lead to one or more of his important memories. Every memory is in his mindscape. And so he enters one room where he sees Madara fighting the whole entire shinobi army, and he sees the Minato fighting versus Tobi, which Minato basically showed him. And he sees Hashirama fighting with Madara, which Hashirama also showed him. And he sees Sasuke and Orochimaru fights that he's been into. And he sees like his own and Sasuke's fight. And, you know, he decides to use all of these different types of fighting styles to create his own taijutsu style that will be basically unbeatable by anybody. Like, he also sees my guy's taijutsu, of course, I forgot to mention that. And you know, he goes back into like the main room, like where Kurama used to be. He sits on the floor and starts thinking about what he needs to do. So he basically just creates an image of like a notebook and like a pen, starts writing down what he needs to do. So firstly, most importantly, he needs to stop Izuna Uchiha from dying, because this is what led Madara to his basically insanity, sort of, to his revenge against the Hidden Leaf, because, you know, his brother died. In fact, that's my opinion. And so then he needs to kill Black Zetsu, or at least try to stop him or seal him somehow, because Black Zetsu was basically the main problem. Then he needs to gather all of the Biju, keep them safe, in order for Hashirama not to catch all of them and distribute them through the different villages that are going to form in a few years. And you know, these are the three main things that he needs to do. And after that, he starts thinking about the situation he's currently in. And basically, he now knows that his body, Itama's body that he's taken over, is 10 years old. Basically, he's the same age as Tobirama and Izuna in this what if. Now, Naruto now has 10 more years before Izuna dies. Basically, he has until he turns 20 years old until Izuna dies. So he has that many years to prepare for the main events. And lastly, he has 10 years also before the leaf is created. Basically, after Izuna dies, you know, pretty much immediately the leaf is created after like the final battle, sort of. And I just want to say that Hashirama and Madara are 4 years older in this what if. These are the things that he needs to do. And then he wonders why he didn't really awaken the Rinnegan. And basically he just narrows it down to the fact that the Sharingan that he stole from the Uchiha, it just wasn't strong enough to awaken the Rinnegan. But in a sense, he's actually relieved that he doesn't have the Rinnegan, since in this what if I'm just gonna say that each different Rinnegan has different techniques. So he would need to learn 6 new techniques out of nowhere, and this is pretty difficult to do and master into like 10 years, because it's not really a lot of time to master and perfect 6 new Rinnegan techniques, which are insanely strong and insanely difficult to use. And so he's kind of relieved that he has the Mangekyo, since he pretty much knows what his abilities are going to be about. He's gonna have the Susanoo, probably, maybe not, maybe. We don't know. He's gonna have some other ability. And yeah. And lastly, he just cooks up a little training plan for the next 2 years, just because, you know, he can't think that far. So firstly, he wants his training to be to, you know, strengthen his strength, speed, agility, and basically his body. Yeah. So he wants that type of exercise. So he makes a taijutsu practice, sort of like a form. He makes a ninjutsu program, also a funjutsu program, and as well as kenjutsu and, you know, bukijutsu, throwing metal, sort of. And you know, after that, he just wakes up in the real world. He goes to the river, and, you know, he sees his new eye, and you know, he looks at the tree, and he looks at a tree, it's just a random tree, and then he pours chakra into the new eye, and absolutely nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. So Naruto's just wondering, like, what is my Mangekyo ability about, and understands that, you know, he needs to maybe probably train his eye and fight his, like, other shinobi, or like maybe his clones, in order to, like, gain strength to use the Sharingan. But before I go on, brief explanation of how Naruto looks. Well, it's probably gonna be on your screen, guys. He has one part black hair, one part white hair. It's not spiky. I'm just gonna make it like, he basically just looks like the image on the screen. And the black veins, yeah, it looks like that. Basically, yeah, that's just what he's gonna wear, and he's gonna wear that same kimono and like that same mask, sort of. Yeah, basically that's just how he looks. I think that's pretty close to Itama, and I think that just looks good, in my opinion. It's not my artwork in any way or shape or form. Found it on Pinterest. Unfortunately, I didn't find the source. I'm gonna continue. If y'all know the image, tell me, but I can't find it. So he wakes up. Yeah, doesn't know what his ability is. Yeah, and so he decides to start real training. So he creates 10 clones for each of the different sections of ninja aspect. 10 clones for taijutsu, 10 clones for ninjutsu, 10 clones for kenjutsu, and 10 clones for bukijutsu, all to go train by themselves. And he himself is gonna do like physical exercise, like working out, making his body stronger. He also, somebody, I think oh my god. My bad, I thought I heard like some fireworks or something. But he also creates 10 more clones to explore like the area within the barrier, because this is like a good area. I'll say it's like about like I'll say it's a good like 200 square meter area, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a good area that needs a bit of exploring. And so he actually creates 10 more clones to like go build some stuff inside the cave to make it look even more like home and not like an abandoned cave of bandits. And so you know, he starts training, and at one moment he gets memories, like he gets the you know, the knowledge of the 3 clones he sent exploring, and says that they found a special type of tobacco plant, and this was actually the tobacco of the Sarutobi clan in the future. And you know, this tobacco the Sarutobi clan smoked. You know, they made joints out of it, made blunts, and you know, this tobacco, instead of like harming your lungs and doing bad things to your health. By the way, I don't support smoking in any way. Don't do it. You know, realize, you know, it's not good, man. It's not good. Unless you're Snoop Dogg, then it's cool. Why did I just say that? Oh my god. Whatever. And so this tobacco actually regenerates your chakra, sort of like heals your wounds, and basically it's actually healthy for your lungs, sort of. So it's very good to smoke it. And the bark of the Sarutobi trees that grow next to the tobacco is actually what made chakra paper. And so he basically realizes that he is on the grounds where the Sarutobi clan is going to be located on in the future. This is basically on the land where the Leaf Village is, sort of. Yeah, that's basically where he is. And you know, he remembers that the Sarutobi clan was super wealthy, was super healthy, and I mean the Sarutobi clan was super wealthy and rich because this tobacco was super valuable across all the 5 great nations, and you know, even villages like the Cloud and the Stone, they all were customers of the Sarutobi clan. And that's the reason why throughout the war, Third World War, the Sarutobi clan was very rarely sent out into the battlefields, because the Leaf Village needed someone to, you know, keep the tobacco, you know, fresh and healthy, because the Sarutobi clan were very important to the business of, to like the economy of the Leaf Village, since they were part of the tourism attractions and stuff. Yeah, like a lot of stuff. And it's gonna be very expensive in the future, so he has a little plan for that. And so Naruto creates another 5 clones to go gather the tobacco, and also create like a tobacco pipe sort of that he can smoke out of. And right now I'm gonna talk about a bit about his like ninja skills. So his taijutsu, he calls his new form Dance of the 7 Devils. Don't ask me why it's the 7 Devils, not like the 12 Devils, whatever. The Dance of the 7 Devils is a taijutsu stance, taijutsu style that revolves around like fast, sharp strikes and movements. It's also extremely unpredictable, and you know, just to add a little bit of flair, there's also a lot of like fast, you know, random spins that distract the opponent and create more force in the kicks and the punches. Next up is his new kenjutsu style that he called the Dance of the Fire God. I know, very creative. Totally not anything related with Demon Slayer. By the way, the new season is I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fire. Like the animation, I missed the animation. Like, it's so good. It's very good. Basically, this new kenjutsu style, it resembles sort of like Madara's style, sort of. In like the shinobi army, you can like see how he uses different weapons. But his strikes are like now more flow, and like they have more flow and more smoothness in them. So they're just like more, like it's basically just a more smoother style. Basically sort of like a mix of Orochimaru, Sasuke, and Mifune, and like Samurai, and and Madara, all of them together. It's a very powerful style. And next up, his ninjutsu is what is very important. So he uses the tree bark that he got to test his chakra natures, and he gets 5. He's thinking like, oh, maybe I'll get like a few like Kick Genkai and a few chakra natures, but no. Only 2 of the 5 barks change color. One of them covers in like black, like this dark chakra, and then disintegrates. And the other one, it lights up brightly and then disintegrates again. And Naruto has never seen these types of Kick Genkais before, and he doesn't even understand how can he even have Kick Genkais without other chakra natures. He's like, what the hell, that's impossible. But he's like, okay, whatever. So he's thinking of a way to use this new Kick Genkais, and he's trying to remember like how he managed to use that black energy against the Uchihas, and he remembers that feeling all of a sudden. He remembers it. The feeling of pure rage and anger. That's what summoned the black energy. And he thinks about this anger feeling, this feeling of, you know, he wants to, the fact that he wants to kill everyone, all of the enemies, all of the people who wronged him. He raises his hand forward thinking about this. He focuses some chakra in his hand and then releases it in a burst. And he aims at the tree in front of him, and in just a blink, the tree has just like a missing hole in it, like a just boom. And if you guys watch Black Clover, it basically just looks like Yami's death thrust move that he used against Dante. Yeah, it sort of looks like that, but without the katana. He can use it with the katana as well. And this is probably like one of his favorite new moves now. And yeah. Guys, go watch Black Clover, by the way. It's super cool, super nice ability. Yep. And this death thrust is super powerful as well. Very unpredictable move. And what next? And he's like, okay, this is very interesting, but what about my other Kyugenkai? And so he, does a bit of critical thinking, and he's like, okay, so if the darkness revolves around anger, then the light is gonna revolve around happiness and something nice. But then he remembers that he doesn't really have that many nice memories. And so, he's thinking of what he can think about, and then he thinks about the feeling of killing absolutely every single one of his enemies from the other world, including, but most importantly, Sakura and Sasuke. He wants to destroy them. And then he just smiles, raises his other hand forward, and aims it at another tree, and then sort of like a laser, like a light laser comes out. It's like sort of if you guys know Licht from Black Clover, it's sort of like his spells, but it is, I'm just gonna call it, it's the heaven splitting flash. It's basically just a laser of light that disintegrates everything it touches. Super powerful move, by the way, also. And yeah, now he knows how to use, his two new Kyugenkais, which he is like super powerful, which they are super powerful. One he calls the dark release, and the other one light release, or something like that. Very creative names. I know, but I'm not gonna call it the all-swallowing devil's darkness, something like that. No. And so he actually starts developing his some of his techniques. And you know what? I actually just thought of something. I am gonna include images of the techniques in a link that's gonna be probably in the description. And if I do not put them in the description for some reason, please somebody comment that so I can see it, so I can put it, because I do not want to explain every single technique that's going to be in his arsenal, because it's a pain. And so he starts developing these new techniques, a lot of them, with both dark and light release. And that is how 3 years pass. They pass really fast. And I'm going to talk a bit about Naruto's strength level. And yeah, by the way, he's going to be calling himself Naruto, not something like Itama. Hell no. He ain't about that. He's still Naruto. So his ninjutsu is at about high Jonin to like a Anbu captain level, very high. Not quite Kage level, because he just doesn't have that type of... He doesn't have enough training yet. Like, okay, come on. A 13-year-old boy. Well, with the mind of like a 18-year-old now. A 20-year-old, but it's fine. His taijutsu is now that of a Jonin level. I'm just gonna say high Jonin. Bukinjutsu, high Jonin. Fuinjutsu, fucking Kushina and Mito level. His handwriting just improved a lot. Now he's good. He doesn't need to learn anything else. And so, this particular day, he decides that he's just gonna actually go out of the barrier for the first time and do a bit of fishing. Since he doesn't really have a lot of fish here in his little pond, he usually just goes out the barrier to just hunt animals and just comes back. Now he wants to go up the lake, up the river to go fish. Like, he starts walking up there, and he's enjoying the view. But then he hears voices, serious voices, that he starts running extremely fast, basically breaking the sound barrier. And he gets to the scene and he recognizes this, and this is where Madara and Hashirama's relationship basically just goes south. It just becomes bad, because this is like after the part where Hashirama's father ordered Hashirama to kill Madara, and the same for Madara, and like this is where and he sees the fathers of the two boys jump up and send kunai towards their younger children, Izuna and Tobirama. And he sees that the kunai going for Izuna is a bit faster this time. And so he throws his own kunai that he created himself to deflect both of the kunais. And the clan heads, the fathers, they land and see, they land on the ground, on the water, look towards the direction where the kunais came from, and see a Shimura shinobi from the Shimura clan. And, this Shimura shinobi looked very daring, and he said, "Fuck you, Uchihas and the Senju." And then he just disappeared. And the Uchiha and the Senju are a bit shocked by this, but they just look at each other and just retreat because, now both of them are like ready. And Madara just says, "Oh, I'm weaker than Hashirama or something," and they just retreat. So none of that. But the Shimura shinobi, he appears 300 meters away from the scene, and then transforms back into Naruto. If you guys didn't know, but okay. And then he just smiles maniacally and says, "That's that." And one day later, mysteriously, the Shimura clan gets mysteriously wiped out because of some Uchiha and Senju infiltrators who wiped everyone out because they offended the clan heads and they were too strong. So this basically means that there is no more Danzo. How nice of Naruto to rid us of that bad person. Yep. That's it. Not the end of the what if, of course. I know you guys are all... Okay, ignore that. I just started talking about a random new what if that I'm developing. By the way, I'm just gonna tease it right now. It's got something to do with Kawaki. Join the Discord server to find out about the latest ideas. Even though I'm not active, we got a few active members there. It's pretty fun, I guess. But join if you want. By the way, I'm thinking of giving the Discord members some special perks, if you know what I mean. Yeah, basically another 2 more years pass. Time skips, I know, right? But the battles between the 2 great clans, the Uchiha and the Senju, they begin to escalate. They begin to become more serious, and Madara and Hashirama both enter the battles. So Madara and Hashirama are like 19 something. Yeah, they're 19 now, or like 18, something like that. And Naruto's 15. He's been training all this time. But now that the battles have begun to escalate, Naruto decides to take advantage of the situation and decides to become a mercenary for hire, going by the name of White Death. And so he decides to use only his light, sort of like his light Kikigenkai to not be exposed. He plans to use the dark Kikigenkai for other reasons later, and the white Kikigenkai for mercenary work, so he doesn't get recognized. You get it? And it's also the fact that because he has a bit of problems with with his light Kikigenkai, because he has a lot less hatred in him. He has a lot more hatred in him than happiness from his past life. So it's a bit harder for him to use his light Kikigenkai. That's why he wants to train it by using only it. And so he gets quickly known by being a merciless and very effective, very strong mercenary. And he gets recruited by Hashirama. He gets recruited by the Senju clan once. And he actually meets Hashirama. And Hashirama feels something familiar about this person's chakra. But he just ignores it because he thinks it's irrelevant. And and he does a mission for them, kill some bandits or something. Basically be in their good graces or something. After that, he actually also gets recruited by the Uchiha. And Naruto explicitly is known for being a mercenary who doesn't care about... He can be recruited by anybody unless they if they have the money to pay. So any clan can hire them, even Senju and even Uchiha, who are opposing. And he's also recruited by the Uchihas once, and he meets with Izuna. And when he sees Izuna, he basically just chokes on air. Basically, he just starts coughing, because Izuna is a girl. Hey, yo, what the hell? That's insane. But yeah, Izuna is pretty female in this one. A really pretty female. Pretty thick female as well. But, you know, Naruto was a bit staring, sort of, even through his mask. You can see that Naruto's openly staring at Izuna, you know. It's at Izuna's package, you could say. Her. Double cheeked up on a Tuesday afternoon. But, you know, Madara sees, you know, how this mercenary is looking at Izuna, and he tries to scare him away by, you know, releasing some of his ki. But Naruto, he ain't gonna let that happen. He lets out an even scarier ki that basically makes Madara and Izuna and everybody around him shiver in fear, like shake. And yeah, you know, so he gets hired to do a job in like a day, and he's allowed to stay at the guest house of the Uchiha clan. And he decides to actually kill a certain someone in the Uchiha clan. So at night, he sneaks into the ancient scriptures of the Uchiha, and he pretends that he's reading it. And then a black something comes out of the scriptures. And this was Black Zetsu. And this Black Zetsu, he tries to convince Naruto to join the Eyes of the Moon plan. And Naruto was having a lot of fun. Naruto pretends to think about this very, very hard, and you know, but he's actually secretly gathering the chakra for a jutsu. And so Zetsu is like relaxes, thinking that Naruto's just gonna accept his offer of ridding the shinobi world of wars and bringing eternal peace to this land. And so he relaxes, looks away for a second, and that's when Naruto raises his hand towards Zetsu and says, "Dark flames, consumption," and that's when black flames are released, and he consumes Zetsu. Basically, this is a technique I came up myself. It's not gonna be in the description, but yeah, dark flames consumption is just basically he lets out dark flames that don't really burn you, but they sort of seal you inside the caster of the jutsu. And now the caster gets all of the abilities of the person he just absorbed, basically. So now Naruto has the abilities of Zetsu, which include, if I'm not mistaken, these include he is able to phase through objects. So basically he has Kamui, but a better version of it, where he doesn't require almost any chakra to do it, as well as a Sharingan. He doesn't need it. He's also able to travel underground extremely fast, just like Zetsu. And last but not least, we have the ability to perform organic clone creation. And this technique basically just allows him to create white Zetsus. Basically an army of white Zetsus. Yup. Yes, sir. White Zetsus. But they are now good guys, because they are controlled by Naruto. And the consciousness of Black Zetsu is, oh yeah, there's no more. No more Black Zetsu. And, yeah. And so, he does the mission for the Uchihas. But after this mission, he actually, decides to disappear from the world for basically 5 years. And he wants to do this in order to train his Mangekyo Sharingan and basically just finish his overall training, because he hasn't really completed it yet, in his opinion. So he returns to his base, his little cave, and basically, first of all, he basically just sits down and for a good 3 hours stares blankly into one spot, just thinking about how Izuna is a girl. And the ages of everyone are different. This time the kunais were faster, and Zetsu is now dead, and he now uses his theory of just time And he believes that because so many things have changed in the past, things in the future could also change as well. And so this could change the timeline to which he's used to. So he needs to be ready for the changes, because as we know, he needs to save Izuna from death. And so he decides to start training with the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan of his. And so it basically works as a regular Sharingan. And for him to find his ability, he just created some clones and started using just his eye on them. Basically, the way he just uses any ability is just pours a lot of chakra into his eyes, and this activates the ability depending on the chakra signature, the chakra wavelength. Basically, what he actually wants to do, it activates the ability. And so once he pours the chakra into his eyes, all of the clones just magically disappear. So he does that again, and the clones again disappear. And so Naruto already had a theory, but he went out of the barrier, found some random shinobi, and used his ability on them. And one of the shinobi was doing hand signs for fire style jutsu, but when he did that, nothing happened. No fireball came out. And that's when Naruto understood that his jutsu, his technique, which is called Kaminai, which he called Kaminai Koto. I took this from Quora or someplace with an interesting technique. It just basically doesn't allow anybody within a certain vicinity of 10 meters to use, not to use any chakra, but yeah, basically not to use any chakra. Basically, the easiest way is that nothing supernatural can be performed. So anything like super strength, super speed, like even genetic mutations are blocked, like the Sharingan. Because you don't really, the Sharingan is a genetic mutation, but within his jutsu, nobody can use the Sharingan. Nobody can use anything except for stuff that is natural, according to the world. No chakra, no special abilities, nothing. And this ability is overall powerful, but it requires 30 minutes to cool down. And Naruto also can't use chakra while using this ability. So it's kind of a, trade of bad and good. And the effect of the jutsu stops once he blinks, which is even more risky. I hope that's understandable, but I think I'll post that as well. I need to write that down. And so he continues his training like this, as well as doing some other regular training. And so 1 year later, he hears from one of his clones that infiltrated the Senju clan, that Hashirama was actually ordered to gather all of the tailed beasts to make the Senju clan more powerful. But on the other hand, the Uchiha, including Madara, was also ordered to control all of the tailed beasts to make the Uchiha more powerful, to finally win this. And so he finally decides to put his plan to motion of gathering all the tailed beasts. And so he immediately, without any waste, goes after Shukaku. He wants to do them in order. And so he travels underground real quick, like in a second, and he appears in like a little hill of a dune, and he sees Hashirama and Madara already fighting over Shukaku, and Shukaku just literally just sitting and looking at them, bored. He already knows that he's gonna get like obliterated by any of them, so he's just witnessing pretty much the last free day of his life. And you know, Naruto decides to take this opportunity and just quickly appears in front of Shukaku, performs some hand signs, summons summons a giant scroll, and in a split second, Shukaku gets just sucked into the scroll. Basically, Naruto just seals him. And Madara and Hashirama, they see this, and they both look at Naruto very angrily, not knowing who he is. Already knowing who he is. And Madara's like, "You, what are you doing here?" And Naruto ignores him and just says, "Oh, by the way, I gotta go, but say hi to Izuna for me." And that's when he just disappears underground. And I'm not gonna talk about this, but he gathers and seals all of the other tailed beasts in a process. Very boring, but repetitive. He doesn't really ask for their permission yet. He wants to gather all of them, but he has gathered all of the 8 tailed beasts except for Ninetails. He wants to save Ninetails for last. And so he finally arrives to a forest in the land of fire to find the Ninetails. And he tries to seal Ninetails quickly, but that doesn't work because the QB is, you know, its power is much more powerful, and the others like significantly more powerful than like the 8 tails, even like very powerful. I don't know. I don't know why, but I remember from the original Naruto that the power gap between the 8-tailed beasts wasn't as major as the one between the 9 tails and the 8 tails. Like their gap was very big, I think. I don't know. But the 9 tails starts creating a Biju bomb and then shoots it at Naruto. But Naruto just uses his dark flames consumption, and he consumes the Biju bomb. You know, Kurama starts running towards Naruto, but Naruto just does a technique called Dark Binding, and he binds Kurama. After that, he uses his Mangekyo Sharingan Genjutsu, but not to control Kurama, but to show him all of his previous memories of the past life. And this, in like the Genjutsu, is a couple of years worth of memories, but in the real world, it's just a split second. And so Naruto releases the Genjutsu once the memories are done. And then Kurama then says, "Naruto, I believe that this actually happened. I want to be sealed in you again. But what about my brothers and sisters? What do you plan to do with them?" And that's when Naruto says, "I'm glad you're back, Kurama. And about them, I'll ask them right now." And so he creates a huge barrier around him and releases all of the tailed beasts. And upon being released, all of them were very, very angry, but they're very careful since they realize how powerful Naruto is. And that's when Naruto tells them, he said, I can seal all of you in me, and you will live well. Or I can let you go back to where you came from, so that in the future you'll be enslaved by shinobi villages and just be kept in a prison. And so the 2 tails then asks, how can we trust you? And that's when 9 tails jumps in and says, basically he explains absolutely everything about Naruto and about his plan. And so all the tailed beasts actually agree to be sealed in Naruto. And so Naruto performs hand signs, and he seals all of the tailed beasts inside him, becoming the Jinchuriki of 9 tailed beasts. But he doesn't become like a 10-tailed Jinchuriki, just he's a Jinchuriki of 9 Bijus. But after he seals them, he just passes out. And so he wakes up in a dark place, and he sees the Sage of the 6 Paths floating in front of him. And Naruto says, "Oh, Super Gramps, what are you doing here? How are you even here?" And that's when the sage says, "As suspected, we are somehow already acquainted." although I do not know how you know me, as this is my first time appearing to you. The reason as to why I am here is because I wanted to, see what's going on, because your body is that of a senju. It was that of a senju boy that died. But your mind, well, your soul and your mind are of a being outside of this world. I won't ask why and how, but you need to know something. An imminent threat is coming to this world because of your presence. Your abilities are that of an ancient Otsutsuki god, the Otsutsuki deity, and he calls himself God. His real name, unknown. But he wants these abilities back, as they were stolen from him many, 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 many years ago. Currently, he is greatly weakened from the last battle he had with the wielder of darkness and light. So he's coming with his servants, his army. And in your current state, you cannot defeat even one upper rank servant. And you will be facing countless. I will be sending you to train with the Otsutsuki's natural enemies, the dragons. And Naruto was really surprised by the mention of dragons in this talk. But, he comes down and says, and how long will I be training there? And the sage says, well, you have about 2 years until the Otsutsukis come to this world. But that's only in this world. In the dragon world, you will train for 10... You will train for not 10 years, my bad. You will train for as many years as needed. But don't worry. It don't matter how much time passes. No matter how much time passes there, only about a week will pass here. Actually, only about a second will pass here. So you have nothing to worry about. So you can take your time training, because this is serious. And Naruto's like, oh, okay, so what do I have to do? And after that, he can't even finish his sentence. He just disappears in some smoke. And so the sage smiles and says, Naruto, I hope you can defeat them. You're the last hope for this world. And so Naruto appears in a strange cave, and he looks around, and at one point he feels an incredible aura around him. And he looks closer and sees a very intimidating, a huge, basically scary black and white dragon with blood red eyes. And he says, and Naruto says, who are you? And this dragon slowly answered, my name is Bahamut. Did the sage send you here? And Bahamut then said, you're so weak and pathetic. In order to protect your world from those bastards. Damn, that went out. In order to defend your world from those bastards. I don't think bastards is the right fitting word for him. What could be very good? In order to protect your world from that filth. Yeah. From that filth. You will need to pass through this labyrinth with my guidance. I will teach you how to fully master your powers. Time flows differently here. So as the sage probably warned you, you can train here for as long as you want, and only 1 second will pass in the real world. Now, the training starts. Before I move on with the story, let me just briefly explain this training. Basically, he has to go through a huge labyrinth with Bahamut guiding him. And basically, as he goes through his labyrinth, he has to kill all sort of like monsters and enemies and like dead knights and shinobi and stuff. Basically, just using his powers of darkness and light, mostly. And so, 1,000 years passed by. That's how long it took Naruto to pass this labyrinth. And so we cut to a scene where Bahamut says, "Well, kid, you've completed your training. Truly, I am amazed. No human could ever hope to stand against you, but you are still far too weak. So I will kill you." And that's when Bahamut attacks Naruto with dark flames. And so Naruto deflects this immediately with a light ray. And we cut to 5 years later, when the battle finally ends, as Naruto does a perfectly timed feint from Bahamut's attack. And then he goes left and uses a death thrust to Bahamut's stomach when he saw an opening. And this was a fatal injury to Bahamut as he fell to the floor. Bahamut very quietly says, "This was your final test, Naruto. In all honesty, you are ready. Do what I failed. Save this world. Kill the Otsutsuki god." Naruto smiled, as he knew that this was a test all along. And then he says, "Sure thing. Rest well, sensei. I'll do you proud." After that, Bahamut died. Naruto paid his respects, and he appeared reverse summoned himself, and he appeared in a forest, and he looked around, and he smelled a very intense smell of blood, and so he immediately run. Oh no, I'm forgetting English. He immediately ran towards the smell, and the reason he could smell blood from so far away, because this was far away, was because during this training, basically everything about him got boosted, including all of his 5 major senses, without chakra, of course. And he comes to a lake, to like a river, and he sees a body floating down the river to him. And he stops the body and basically sees Izuna Uchiha with a huge wound going from her left shoulder to her right hip. Basically just a slash from a sword. And Naruto, in shock, thinks that, so it's that time already. Just like I predicted, this would happen. Just like I predicted, I knew that this would happen sooner than expected. And so he takes Izuna to his cave and starts caring for the wound. And when he's done, he leaves her to rest, because I keep forgetting the major details, but he found her alive. She was barely holding on. And he decides to not waste any time and immediately teleports to Madara, behind Madara, who is crying about his sister's death, grieving in his room alone, pretty sad. But with a very sinister tone, he says, "So one of the strongest shinobi is crying like a baby. Pathetic." That's when Madara turned around, very shocked and kind of scared, and a Mangekyo Sharingan shining in his eyes. That's when Naruto smiled and says, "Don't worry. Your sister's safe. She's alive. I found her." And Madara's like, You've been missing for not that long. But how did you find my sister? Where is she? Bring her to me now." That's when Naruto forming a very stern look on his face, and it says, "First of all, you don't order me around, I order you. Second of all, I found her near a river when I was walking. She's at my cave, all taken care of." And so, Naruto immediately disappears, goes back to his base, takes Izuna, appears in front of Madara again, lays her on like a random bed lying that was just there in the room, and says, "You're welcome. Now I'll be going." And before he could disappear, Madara says, wait, how can I repay you for this? Naruto says, the only way you could is if you actually try to, make peace with the Senju. Ending this war would be in everyone's interest, including mine. Also, if you don't end the war, if both sides don't end the war in the next 2 months, all of your clans are going to disappear randomly. And I do not know who's going to be the one to kill them, but somebody will kill them. And so, Naruto then disappears, and basically he appears back at his base and now starts thinking while smoking his pipe, restoring his chakra from all of these activities. And he thinks, okay, so I have 2 more years before this Otsutsuki god appears, before he, does anything. And so I need the help of someone, I guess. Not really, but somebody needs to be informing me of what's happening. And that's when a man in a blue robe, in a white robe, and like light blue hair, and like a Byakugan, and a very weird eye, appears and says, "So, you must be Naruto, the new wielder of darkness and light. To be honest, you don't look that intimidating, but I don't really know. Can't judge. My name is Toneri Utsutsuki. I am one of the Clan of the Moon, one of the last, in fact. And I've been watching you, and know that you are the only hope of this world. Basically, our only hero from the Otsutsuki threat." And Naruto's already on guard because he just heard this man call himself as well an Otsutsuki. So Naruto says, "If you're an Otsutsuki, then what are you doing here?" Toneri says, "You do not know our clan's history, do you? The Clan of the Moon is separate from the main clan. We are separatists who protect worlds from their rule, from the other Otsutsukis. I am here to tell you that the sage was wrong. You only have about a week before God gets here with his army. His army consists of roughly 10,000 mid-rank Otsutsuki soldiers, and by your standards, each mid-rank is about Kage level, high Kage level. But for you, that won't be really much of an issue, I think. Now, the real problem are the high-rank servants, the upper ranks. Those guys, you can't judge their power. They could be anything from, like, super high Kage to just a power level that doesn't exist in your world. Now, the Otsutsuki god will be as well. He will be partaking in the battle. His power, I can't help you with that. You will have to face him yourself. Good luck. Everything is in your hands." And that's when Tonari just disappears again. And Naruto's like, okay, shit. Well, that just happened. What should I do? And so Naruto is generally at a loss for words. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, he's trained for all these years. His power is nobody can beat him. He knows all of those techniques to perfection. He's near damn invincible. So, when he feels something, he thinks about something. He's like, now, why the hell am I protecting this world? It didn't do anything for me. I mean, why? Last time I got betrayed when I tried protecting the world. I mean, why even do this? Should I just let the Otsutsuki god just kill me? No, that wouldn't be good. And plus, I'll let down Sensei. I mean, if I do have like a week, I should probably go enjoy my life a little bit. And so Naruto, he actually goes to a city. So the way I think that everything is that there were these clans, they were having battles, but there were cities as well. The cities, people from the clans, from the shinobi clans, went there to relax sometimes, and these were giant cities. They had nothing. They had nothing to do with the hidden villages, but they were cities, just regular cities. And so Naruto decided to go to a regular city. I don't know. I can't think of a name to just enjoy. And that day was a festival, like a Japanese festival. And he like dressed in his kimono or whatever it's called. This one with like the blue one, not the red one. Smoking his pipe, just like with his eye patch, just walking around, just looking. And all the women are fainting at the look of him. He just smiles. And that's when he comes across a certain someone, somehow already walking, but with a bit of trouble. He decides to help her. And he's like, and what is the princess of the Uchiha clan doing here? And Itama, as already guessed. Oh, it's you. I was looking for you. And Naruto says, you've been looking for me? Why exactly? And she said, and Itama said, and Izuna said, well, I heard that you were the one who saved me from death. I wanted to thank you. And Naruto was like, thank me? Haven't heard that in a long time. And Izuna said, how can I repay you? And Naruto says, I'm a bit low on cash right now. We could go for some ramen. And Izuna smiles, and they go for some ramen. And I'm not going to talk about what they did in the ramen, but they bonded. Not that type of bonded, but they bonded spiritually, mentally. Naruto started feeling something towards someone. Same with Izuna, It do be like that, So, after this little date, they said goodbye. And, Naruto returned to his little cave. And he's like, okay. I mean, I think I have a reason for fighting now. Alright. I should focus these last 6 days on just pure training. And so, for the next 5 days, Naruto underwent the most intense training. Not physically, but more of like mentally, just preparing himself for this. And on the last day, Naruto just went to where the clan battles usually happened, which were empty now, formed a giant barrier around it, and just waited on one edge. And shinobi started gathering around this barrier, looking at this man who they couldn't, get to. Why is he just sitting there? And why is there like a square area around it where there's nothing, no trees, nothing, but it's just a square. Everything is like a square. Giant square area is what I mean. And at one point, there's a giant beam in the sky, and appear roughly 10,000 soldiers dressed in white robes with very weird eyes, most of them having byakugans and renegans, and some even having other dojutsus. And so, behind the lines, on a giant throne, surrounded by 10 upper rank servants, sat the Otsutsuki god. And I'm just gonna say that he looks exactly like if you've seen like the Boruto stuff, like the guy filled with Jogans. Yeah, that's how he looks. But this time he has absolutely every single dojutsu around him. Yeah. And he's like, you, the new wielder of darkness and light, surrender your power to me, and I will leave this world unscathed. If you resist, I will kill you and destroy this world. Naruto grinned, stood up, and then disappeared in a flash. And just like that, roughly 100 soldiers were dead. And they kept dying and dying and dying. Naruto was running through their ranks, just using death thrusts, like black holes everywhere, binding people, just slashing people. At one point he just stopped and literally just used a dimension slash on like the whole rank, just annihilating 300 soldiers. And then he started getting physical with taijutsu, uppercut, block, jab, freaking. People are, Otsutsukis are dying. And, shinobi are hearing these sounds, explosions of just attacks, like everything's going like ham. And everyone's gathered around this barrier, and everyone's looking, witnessing in like pure terror. Like, what is this? Is this one man facing an army? What even is this army? And Izuna is one of the people who's watching, and she's like she's terrified because the man she went on a date with a week ago and kind of likes now, is in love with, is basically fighting an army of weird people who are very powerful. And so roughly 30 minutes later, all of the mid-rank servants are pretty much ham, and only the upper rank servants are left. And these upper ranks some of them include Ishiki, Momoshiki, Kinshiki, Urashiki, and a bunch of other ones. I'm not gonna talk about them. And so Ishiki comes in first and says, you did well against that filth, but you'll be no match for me. And Naruto, very, very boringly, just, takes his eye patch off. He was fighting with his eye patch. He takes the eye patch off, activates his Sharingan, and after that, he creates a black moon around him. And just waits. And, Ishiki doesn't know what this technique can do. But I'm going to explain it to you guys. The black moon, as you can see in the picture, if you go to the link below in the description, if it's there, if I even remember to put it there. But basically, within its vicinity, any attack can be countered fatally. Like he can counter and kill. And basically, Ishiki just enters this area trying to stab him, but Naruto perfectly dodges it and just runs a sword that he created out of darkness right up Ishiki's jaw. From his jaw into his brain, Ishiki dead. After that, Naruto immediately looked towards Urashiki and just appeared in front of him, like stabbed him in the face. And then he jumped off, teleported straight to Kinshiki and Momoshiki, and got into a taijutsu fight with both of them until they both merged like in canon. And the fight got even more grueling, but it was nothing for Naruto. He was just sweating a bit. And you know, the fight with Momoshiki and Kinshiki took on a long time. And but eventually he just sliced them up with heaven-splitting flash straight to their face. And he took care of the rest of the 5 of the upper rank servants until only the Otsutsuki god was left. And so they were staring down each other. And that's when God said, "Very impressive taking out my whole army, but you'll be no match for me." After that, he raised one finger and an immense force pushed Naruto to the ground. He could not resist. Naruto was getting pushed more and more to the ground, but with only sheer will, he managed to resist this force and stand up. After that, he looked up at the god and activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. After activating Kaminai Koto. After that, it was like the air had no more oxygen in it. Same with chakra. Nobody could use chakra anymore. The god was in frustration. He couldn't understand what was going on, but he quickly figured out that that was probably the enemy's Sharingan ability. But Naruto wasn't wasting any time. He runs to fight the god in taijutsu because he expects the god to be overconfident and unable to do taijutsu at a proper level. But little does he know is that the god was actually a very fierce taijutsu warrior. And so they start battling it out with kicks, punches, elbows, jumping around. Naruto sending a few kunai, but the god just blocks it with his iron skin, since you know it's pretty much like that. But at one point they both appear in front of each other and punch each other simultaneously in the face, and this deactivates Naruto's technique. And this has drained a lot of his energy, trying to uphold the technique, keep fighting in taijutsu, as well as not blinking, in order to keep the technique running. But once the technique falls off, the god summons a giant spear, and he summons the spear on top of him, raises his hand, and then just sends it towards Naruto. And Naruto blocks this with a black cocoon that shields him from the spear. After that, immediately jumping out of the cocoon, performing some hand signs and using a heaven-splitting slash. The god dodges this, and they continue to fight. This fight of theirs, it goes on for 2 hours, maybe more, maybe less, but somewhere around there. And we cut to our point of view where God, sends a final sort of like force field at Naruto, and Naruto sends his final Dark Cloak Dimension / Equinox at the god. And if this technique, one or the other, touches the other person, they're dead. This is the final stand. Naruto will not be able to summon any more attacks after this. He's out of chakra. The god is pretty much out of chakra as well. This was an equal fight. Who will win? The techniques clash. They combine. One trying to overpower the other. But in the end, Naruto's Dimension Slash cuts through the force field and heads straight for the god. The god understands that he can do absolutely nothing to stop this. His fate is imminent, and so he just takes it. This technique cuts him in half, and there, the great deity of the Otsutsukis has died. Naruto, has a victorious look on his face. He stands there for about 10 seconds, during which the barrier deactivated and a bunch of shinobi, mainly from the Uchiha clan because they were the closest, started running towards Naruto to see what happened. Naruto quickly performed some hand signs, which released a dark consumption flame in a 360-degree angle all around him, consuming all of the barrier before the shinobi got there. This just destroyed all of the dead Otsutsuki bodies so that nobody could take any dojutsu, no genes, nothing. All of the bodies were destroyed. And right before some ninja get to Naruto, he just passes out. And as he was about to fall, somebody caught him. Now, Naruto wakes up and sees that he's in a room. It's pretty much sunny. There's sun getting into the room. He looks around and sees none other than Izuna putting a wet towel on his face. And he's a bit surprised. He already understands where he is. He remembers what happened. He knows that he won. He saved this world. And he stands up, to which Izuna is very upset because he's not well yet. And basically Naruto just straight up says, he's like, Izuna, we've known each other for so little, but how about we go live somewhere else, somewhere peaceful, where there's no people, no conflict, nothing. And Izuna is looking at Naruto in a bit of a shock, but she's like, but who's gonna protect this place from wars and stuff? And Naruto's like, don't worry, I'll make sure that no conflict ever happens here or anywhere in the shinobi world. And basically Naruto and Izuna, they go to like a secluded mountain, put up a barrier, and just live there, making a bunch of babies, studying all day, eating curry and stuff, living the good life, basically. And the way Naruto prevented all of the wars from ever happening again is that at every square meter of the shinobi world, he placed a Zetsu clone. And this Zetsu clone would inform Naruto if there was any conflict, if any bandits, anything, like any shinobi, any village tried to be formed and, go to war, he would immediately appear there and just kill the threat. Pretty much like that. And when Naruto would die, there would be someone else to take his place. None other than his son. And after that, the son's son. And after that, the son's son would do it. But you get it. Anyways, that is the story of Naruto Uzumaki, or Naruto the God Killer. That was a grand ending. Everyone, thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever. Please don't forget to click subscribe, click the like button, comment down below new ideas, tell me what you didn't like and liked about this what if. Hope to see you next time. Have a good day, night, or whatever.